What's up, fellas? My name is Steve and this is Tech Teardown. Today in this video, I'm going to be building you a $450 gaming PC, all based around the brand new APUs from AMD Ryzen. This is the 3200G. It's a 4-core, 4-threaded processor, and it has the integrated Vega 11 graphics. These are the newest refresh of the APUs, previously the 2200G and the 2400G. These are just a little bit of boost in performance, still on the 12 nanometer process. They haven't moved the 7 nanometer process up on these APUs yet. Hopefully we can see those here in the future, but still excellent value for what you get in these little processors. With this APU, it's going to offer a great upgrade path. If you want to upgrade to a processor or a better graphics card, you can do that. But this is going to be a great option for anyone trying to get their foot in the door to get into PC gaming on the cheap. The system that we're going to be building today is a micro ATX build, all white, in this dark flash micro ATX case, an all white case. Very cheap on Amazon. It doesn't come with any fans though, so I did pick up this pack of RGB fans from Apivia. Very cheap fans that you can get, and it comes with 2 RGB strips. So these are going to be our cooling solution for the case. For our motherboard, we have this ASRock B450 Steel Legend motherboard. Now, this is a great motherboard. I mainly went with it though because of the aesthetics. I think it's going to fit our theme really well. The heat sinks are a nice bright silver, and it has a digital camo with the white in it. So I think it's going to definitely fit the theme of the build. It is one of the more expensive B450 motherboards. It is perfect for these APUs because it has built-in DisplayPort and HDMI. I spent the extra money not only just for the aesthetics, but it does have the DisplayPort on it, which I prefer over HDMI. But if you're trying to make this build any cheaper, you can get one of the cheaper motherboards like the Gigabyte B450. Motherboards can come in around $60 or so, which are an excellent motherboard for these APUs. Now, cooling this 3200G, we have this Deepcool Gamax 400 white. It has a white LED fan on it, and the heatsink is all white. It has the same amount of heat pipes as a Hyper 212 Evo from Cooler Master, just a little bit cheaper, and I kind of expect it to perform similar to that of the Hyper 212. Now, as for our RAM, the APU, when you're using the integrated graphics, it is going to use system memory. So you need at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, which I did go with 16 gigabytes of this Team Group Delta RGB. This RAM is rated at 3200 megahertz speed, and it is a cast latency of 16. This RAM from Team Group is a great budget option, especially if you like the RGB implementation that they went with. I've loved using Team Group. I've used them in multiple builds. They're a great budget option. I can't recommend them enough. Next, for our storage solution, we have this ADATA XPG 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD. I've never used an ADATA SSD, so I'm not entirely sure if I can recommend it, but I got it on an excellent quick deal on Amazon, so I kind of just jumped on it. It does have a red and black heatsink on it, so kind of goes against the grain of our white theme here. Easy fix. If I wanted to mod it, I could. I'm not going to do anything like that today, but it's a quick, easy solution for a nice size storage SSD for our boot drive on this computer. And finally, powering this system is this Be Quiet 600 watt power supply. 600 watts is a little bit overkill for what we're building here today, but like I said, we are trying to have something that's upgradable, and I don't want you to have to swap out your power supply. So 600 watts is great if you do plan on upgrading the system, but if you're happy with the 3200G and just playing games on that, then you can go as low as a 450 watt power supply, and it would be a great option for you. Be Quiet is an excellent brand. I've heard a lot of reviewers say that with their power supplies, you don't have to worry about coil whine, obviously, because that wouldn't be great for their name, Be Quiet. Well, that's all the parts that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and start building, and then I'll come back on top after I've done some benchmarking and tell you guys how this system performs. All right, guys, we are done building. I've done all the testing, and this system, the 3200G, is like the little chip that could. For the price that you're paying for this 4-core processor, comes with integrated graphics. You can play games like Fortnite with 60 FPS. You can play it in 720p to get way better performance. For me, I want to play in 1080p. If you think it's unreasonable for me to be not testing in 720, let me know down in the comments. I will be more than happy to retest the chip with 720 with some different games. But for me, 1080p is, to me, a standard nowadays. But if you think that's a little bit unreasonable for me to think that way, I'll be more than happy to retest it at 3200G. I also did not test this chip at stock. I automatically overclocked it to 4.1 gigahertz on all cores, and then the GPU I overclocked to 1700 megahertz, and that was at 1.28 volts. Now, I did try to get it to 1800 megahertz, but I was getting GPU artifacting when I was at 1800 megahertz, so I brought it down to 1700 megahertz, and the artifacting was gone. These processors are great overclockers. They're still on the 12 nanometer process from AMD. They haven't switched over to 7 nanometer yet. I'd be really interested to see if AMD can come out with a 7 nanometer APU. Since they have 7 nanometer Vega chips with the Radeon 7 and they have 7 nanometer processors, I would love to see if they can come out with a new APU on that 7 nanometer process. 7 nanometer hasn't been great when it comes to overclocking, but it would be able to provide better IPC performance and be able to possibly provide us more cores on these APUs. So I'm really hoping by next year we can have a 7 nanometer APU that would really set a bar high on these APUs from AMD. Now, for the temperatures on the 3200G, I did run the Hitman 2 benchmark on loop, about 20 runs in a row. The highest temperature I got was about 60 degrees Celsius on the CPU. The GPU stayed around 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. So I would say that this deep-cooled GAMX 400 CPU cooler has been a really good performer and is doing what I would say a really good job and very comparable to the Hyper 212 at a great price. Now, as far as the case goes, it's a $50 case, and I'd have to say you kind of get what you buy. It has some really cool features, but I think they fall short in some pretty poor design choices. On the backside here, the air cutouts are the only airflow you have for the front, but they're positioned behind the intake fan. So there's really no air getting in behind the fans to pull it into the case. So I'm not really sure this front fan is doing anything at all. Now, the RGB can be controlled through this little remote here. And you just press the button. Very responsive, probably one of the most responsive IR remotes that I've received in these little fan kits, the cheap RGB fan kits. So I do really like this remote. And I put it on auto right here, so it kind of just cycles through all the different RGB modes. One little problem that you have with this system is the Team Force Delta RGB RAM that I have is not compatible with ASRock's RGB system, so you can't control the RGB RAM. Another cool part of this case here is this little prism design here on the front is not some type of visual trick. It is actually physically just kind of breaking out the way it looks. If you were to rub your hand across it, it is not smooth. It is very just kind of bumpy. I kind of like it, but as I said, the airflow is not well optimized in this case. Despite having support for 2 fans here at the top, it looks like you can support 2 140s or 2 120s, which I have currently. And then you have a 120 in the back, and you can fit 2 120s in the front. It does have cable management tie downs in the back. So I think for $50, it's a pretty decent case. But overall, for $450, I think this is a great little starter PC for a lot of people. Low system power consumption when you're only running just the one APU, which is a 65 watt TDP. So it's an excellent system for someone just to get started, especially if you're trying to play games like Fortnite or Counter-Strike Global Offensive. This system can handle a lot of those games. Once you're trying to get up into like the ranges of Battlefield and Call of Duty, this system will struggle without a doubt. And that's when you're gonna have to put in a graphics card. So that's what I wanted to build here, is just a computer that you can upgrade very easily. So anytime you can slide in a graphics card, and we'll do that in a future video with some different graphics cards. And I'm really looking forward to that. There's so many different things you can optimize the system so you can run it at 60 FPS or higher, but that does entail going down to 720p. But as I said before, I think 1080p is kind of a standard right now. 720p is not terrible. It's still obviously a playable thing, but I just, let me know down in the comments if you think I'm being unreasonable to rule out 720p nowadays. 1080p is where is probably the lowest point I would like to game. All right, guys, so I think that is going to wrap up this whole video. So I really want to thank you for watching the video all the way through. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're almost there. If you've already subscribed and you still want to support the channel, liking the video and commenting on the video helps YouTube's algorithm out to recommend my video to other people. So commenting and liking videos helps us out a great deal. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you again for watching. If you want to see more from us, hit that subscribe button and the bell, and we'll see you guys in the next video. The 7nm with the 7nm since they do have 7 nanometer